Rogers TV, London.
All right, welcome. We'll get started. I'd like to welcome you to the all candidates meeting for Ward 6 with our candidates Connor Parati and Jerry Pribble. I am Shauna Lukowitz. I'm your moderator for this evening, and we have Kathy Navakis, who will be our timekeeper. Our other volunteers for the night are John Bradford over there. You can give a wave, John. And then we also have John Young, who went somewhere. He's doing work. So we'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather and the many Indigenous peoples of this region. The three longstanding Indigenous groups of this region are the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape, and the Chinantan peoples. I'd also like to recognize the three First Nation communities neighboring the City of London: Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. We recognize that we, as the Urban League and partners, members, and community, have a role to play in relationship building and reconciliation, and that reconciliation has to be about more than talk. It has to be based on action. So the Urban League of London is hosting all candidate meetings with partner organizations from across London, including ANOVA, Climate Action London, Inclusive Economy London and Region, London Cycle Link, London Environmental Network, London Intercommunity Health Centre, London School of Racialized Leaders, London Middlesex Local Immigration Partnership, Pillar Nonprofit Network, and Young London. We are hosting 14 meetings throughout London before the municipal election scheduled for October 24th, 2022. I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and I hope the change in location, that you got the message ahead of time, and if you ended up going to the first one, that you made it here in good time. So thanks for making the effort to join us. There was a volunteer-run committee that was struck by the Urban League of London. This committee has been meeting since January to organize these meetings for all of us. The committee is composed of individuals from various organizations across the city and set the goal of encouraging participation in local government and the political process. The committee has invited all candidates to participate along with the partner organizations. The committee also created a list of important questions to ask the candidates. We expect that everyone here tonight will be respectful to the candidates and your fellow audience members. If anyone is being harassing or aggressive, we will ask you to leave. We would also like to encourage those of you in our audience who use social media to tag us in your posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us at Urban League of London, at ULLDN, and at ULLDN again, respectively, using the hashtag London Votes. Details are provided on the poster at the back of the room. We would especially like to thank Stony Brook Public School for their support in providing this meeting space. We also thank London Community Foundation for sponsoring the all candidate meetings, and we remind our audience of their 2021 release of their Vital Signs report, Be the Change. Vital Signs is a biannual check-in on how we are faring on issues that are significant to the well-being and quality of life. The latest report focuses on making systemic change by coming together to participate in collective action. The report is available at bethechangelondon.ca. A big thank you to Rogers TV for filming the event for broadcast. So let me explain the ground rules that we're going to follow tonight. We drew our candidates' names from a hat to determine their speaking order. Connor will be going first, followed by Jerry, and then as we move through the questions, we will switch it around. So then Jerry will go first and Connor will follow. So our first candidate will draw, let me back up a second. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening introduction. Our first candidate will draw from a hat a question. They will be given 2 minutes to provide their answer. This is followed by our remaining candidate who has 1 minute for rebuttal. And this will continue until each candidate has drawn several questions. Candidates, please be sure to speak clearly into the microphones. You are able to remove them from the stands if you choose. Once all the candidates our two, have completed questions from the bowl. We will then select questions provided by the audience that have been submitted beforehand. If we move through all of those, or we will move through all of those, and then we will take questions from you for the audience. So how the timekeeping works. The timekeeper has 3 cards, a green card. You want to hold it up there, Kathy? Thank you. A yellow card and a red card. When your allotted time begins, the green card will be held up. At the 30-second point from the end of time, the yellow card is held up. The red card is held up when you must immediately end your answer. As moderator, my job is to move the night along to ensure each candidate is treated fairly and has the same amount of time as the other. All of our candidates were provided with the questions in advance of the all candidates meeting to afford them the opportunity to prepare their responses. I will read the questions as they are drawn. Okay, so we are going to turn to our questions. So we're going to start with Connor. You're going to have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and you can start now.
All right, perfect. Hi there, folks. My name's Connor Parati, and I'm here to be your candidate in Ward 5. First off, I want to thank the organizers of this event, and I want to thank all of you for showing up here tonight as well. Engagement in municipal politics is often difficult, and all of you showing up here is a sign of how vibrant this ward is. I'm a teacher myself. I've been teaching and supplying for the last 3 years in London, Waterloo, and England. In that relatively short period of time, I've taught everything from kindergarten to grade 12, from history to science to French to English. In the past, though, I've worked in the city in the manufacturing sector in the city and in the city's construction sector as well. And also in charity work, I've helped in the past. I helped set up the Youth Advisory Committee at LHSC when I was a young lad. And I've also worked in local politics for the last 12 years for multiple parties and local candidates. And I also, in the past, have helped coach London minor football, and would like to continue coaching football in the future. At the moment, it's a little rough during election season, though. I've seen, though, while canvassing, the anxieties and concerns of families in this area. The cost of living is going up, and parents are worried about whether or not their children will be able to enjoy the same housing and quality of life that they enjoyed. We need to make sure that all families here in this ward can have the same opportunities they had in the past for their children in the future. I'm looking forward to hearing all your questions tonight and having productive discussions with all of you now and throughout the campaign and after the campaign. And also, I'd like to remind all of you to get out there and vote on October 24th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you can do your opening statement now.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Pribble, and welcome to this evening, and thank you to the organizers, and thank you very much for coming tonight on this evening. I've been an owner of a small business in London, Merriam-Bath Restaurant and Chaucer's Pub, for the last 20 years. And before the ownership and during the ownership, I have managed various national and multinational organizations, corporations in 5 different countries. And I took these through restructuring, re-engineering, and recessions and growth, all the stages. And some of those organizations were with a annual budget over $200 million and over 1,000 employees. And after so many years, of being kind of in London and then abroad, we decided 20 years ago to come back with my family. I'm married. I have 2 sons, and I have earned MBA, and I also taught as a part-time professor at the universities. And I always did it because I tremendously enjoyed it. I tremendously like to work with young people, motivate them, and kind of help them reach the sky. And always say sky's the limit. London has been really great to me and to my family. I'm very fortunate the support I've been receiving, and I'm a person that also likes to give back. I've been volunteering on various bases on the government or on the side of governance. I've been serving on various local boards, and as a volunteer, what I do is I volunteer with various organizations, and I did that through Rotary Club and also on my own. And about a year ago, I gave myself a goal, and I wanted to give back certain specific time, and there was 8 hours a week or $400 hours per year. And I really spent the time with organizations that deal with the issues that are burning issues for our city, and that's mental health, homelessness, and environment. And those are the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm hoping to take it to a different level.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the question portion of our evening. As a reminder, the first candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and the following candidate will have 1 minute for a rebuttal. We'll start with Connor. If you want to pull a question from the hat, and I will grab that from you. Read it. Okay, this question comes under the category of moving around the city. What are some of the ways that we can encourage active transportation and public transit in London, and how much of a priority is this issue for you? Connor.
Thanks. When it comes to active transportation, specifically with cycling, I feel that nobody is happy with the way it's been done in London. Pedestrians aren't happy being nearly run down on Thames Valley Parkway. Motorists aren't happy having to deal with cyclists on the road, and cyclists are getting injured and dying because, quite honestly, paint is not protection. We need to make sure that we have much more efficient cycling routes and make sure that those routes are grade separated off the roads to make sure that we don't have deaths like we had last week over on Hamilton Road. And when it comes to encouraging more cycling in the city, we often give incentives to companies to do things, but we never give incentives to people to do things. We need to figure out better incentive systems to get Londoners out there using cycling not just as a hobby, but as an active means of commuting. And finally, when it comes to transit, quite frankly, we need to do much better, especially up here in North London. The city is getting much, much more dense, and density is a good thing. Density makes everybody's lives cheaper, but density can't happen without having proper public transit. We need to, maybe that the North Branch line that we had proposed in the past with BRT wasn't the greatest proposals, but it seems like we have not even gone back to the drawing board to think of any new ideas of how to get transit up here. So if we really want to think about making the city cheaper, better, and more livable for all, cycling and transit need to be a top priority for council.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you have 1 minute to respond.
I think what we need to do is we need to direct as much transportation into the areas where actually it's already existing. So any new development that we are doing to look at strategically and in long term also where the areas are being serviced right now, and as much development into these areas. I do think the bicycle lanes are very important for us, and more protective ones. So I do think as well that it's a big priority. And I really think that one of the kind of outside the box or fundamental question we have is if I compare us to other places in the world, and when we look, level of comfort starts at a young age. And what I mean by that is if we have young students, young kids, taking more public transportation than school buses, I believe they will be more independent, point one, and point two, they will be used to it. So there's, when they get older or they'll be more comfortable, they'll be much more comfortable taking the public transportation. And I think it's thinking outside the box and fundamentally think and answer ourselves this question.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay. So catch your breath,
Oh, yeah.
and then pick a question, and I'll read it out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. This comes under the category of unemployment. London's unemployment rate hit 6.1% this past July 2022. High job vacancy rates remain, along with a lack of skilled workers or skill mismatch in the city. How do you plan to fill this gap? Jerry, you have 2 minutes to answer.
So one thing is, yes, our unemployment is at this height, but one thing is that I think kind of a positively, and I always like to see the glass half full, and our participation rate is, we've done a great job in London in terms of the participation and increasing it, and I think that's really great positive indicator. A couple of things. Skilled labor are, as we all know, there are not enough people, and we need to have them trained. I don't know if you are aware of it. In Strathroy, there was an announcement by province of $5 million for a skilled trade center, and I believe that, and this, by the way, in cooperation with Lambton College, as well as both of our school boards in London, which I think is greatly positive. And I believe that even though it's a pilot project, I believe it's going to be successful, and we'll be able to gain more skilled labor youth. The other thing is high schools, they offer schisms, and it's skills that of the high skills at high schools taught, and there are different schisms credits offered at high schools. And I really think that we are right now in the stage that we shouldn't focus only on college, but we gotta go to the high schools, and not every student might want to go to the university. And I think this is a great opportunity for young people already at high school earning college credits and already have the experience of gaining some skill. And I think that I myself was involved in hospitality and travel and tourism during the last 6 months, together with Minister McNaughton, and we tried to introduce these things for the young people. And the last thing I would like to add also is the skilled labor in terms of the immigration. And yes, no doubt that there are some that, these young people, they will not be entering the workforce tomorrow, but on the other hand, immigration and international working visas will help us out.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, Connor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Well, I think Jerry is right about the fact that maybe there are too many. I see as a high school teacher, more kids should be going into the trades, since that I think we do send probably too many people off to university. We have a bubble at the top there. But when it comes to retaining skills here in London, I think it comes down to working with Fanshawe and Western in a lot of ways. We need to make sure that we are retaining skills here in London. Thousands and thousands and thousands coming to this city every year to get an education, and we don't retain them. And the reason we don't retain them, especially now, is that we don't provide a great quality of life. We need to have cheaper housing for all, better transit, and those are the things that will keep and attract skills and labor here in the city.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, catch your breath, grab a question,
okay. Yes.
And I shall read it for you. Okay, this question comes under the category of housing. What would you do to improve access and affordability of housing and encourage developers to participate and contribute to a solution? Connor, you have 2 minutes to give an answer.
All right, so I believe that municipalities and their city councils need to be the ones setting the terms of how development is done in a city. London is growing at a staggering rate, and the right types of housing, quite frankly, aren't being built. We see a lot of 4,000 or 5,000 square foot homes being built up on Sunningdale or down on Pack Road and Colonel Talbot, and we see a lot of luxury rental apartments and condos going in, but there's nothing in that missing middle. And that's quite frankly because London is not offering the right incentives and disincentives. It's a government's job to regulate a market like that, and one of the ways we don't do it in London is our development charges are not dynamic at all. To develop a lot here in the City of London costs about $30,000 in development charges paid to the city for sewers and streets and whatnot. But that's $30,000 per lot. They don't really, that doesn't change depending on the linear size, or depending on the size of the lot by linear feet, which is how they usually buy them, or on the square footage of the house, which only encourages those highest end homes because you'll make such a large profit margin off it. We need to figure out ways to make the price more dynamic, to make sure we are discouraging certain types of housing which are, quite frankly, wasteful, and move more into slightly more denser stuff, and building more single-family homes on more reasonable plots of land, not these half-acre plots that we seem to be keep divvying up. Finally, some other solutions that we might want to take to encourage better housing in the city would be to end exclusionary zoning, enforce minimum density limits in certain areas, especially around transit hubs, and to find ways to work with developers, maybe even in a public-private partnership with them, because it seems like they love coming into when it's government's traditional role, like in transportation, but we need to make sure that we are building on the other end.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you have 1 minute to respond.
I would add that we need to speed up our approval system. I thought that when I heard the years it takes to approve a project in London, I thought it was customary number for Ontario, but it's not. We are actually, compared to other municipalities, kind of double the time. I do think that in terms of the bonusing, we need to bring that back for municipalities like London. It might not work as well for Toronto, but for us it works really well. I had a conversation about this with Minister Clark about 7-8 months ago, and I do plan to lobby for London to bring this back. I do believe that we need to incentivize also the developers and builders, and incentivize them on the theme of them offering truly affordable housing and lower housing. What Connor said is absolutely right. We are currently, I think, $36,000 or $36,500 for our development charges, and if you go 2-3 kilometers outside London, you pay $18,000 or less.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, would you like to take another question from the basket, please?
We keep forgetting half our job.
Again, unemployment.
I know, you're in the zone of answering the question, which is great. Okay, so this is under the category of unemployment. There are over 40,000 students enrolled at Western University. Many leave after finishing their degrees. How do we work to attract and retain young talent after graduation? Jerry, you have 2 minutes.
So I think that we need to work together very closely, City Council with LEDC, London Economic Development Corporation. I really think that there are a lot of opportunities, and to go and to see which organizations we can bring, and to be honestly proactive. And when I call this, not wait for the phone call for someone to call us, strategically look at the companies that are looking at the growth, and to be really proactive, and see which companies are on the move, growing, and offer them London. Because London, even though we do have our issues, it is a great location. And if you do hear, and I do have a lot of customers who are Western and Fanshawe students, and they do tell me, Jerry, we would love to stay in London. Even though the prices are rising, it's still much better, lower than GTA. But guess what? There are not the right opportunities for us. So we are still going to go to the GTA, struggle with our costs and traffic, etc. But there are not enough opportunities here. And I think that young people, we need to build a community where young people will love to live, work, and play, that they'll be excited to stay. And I think those are the things that municipally we can do. There are certain things that as a council, as a municipality, we might not be able to offer specific position for them, but we can do is something that they'll be excited, and they'll be excited to stay in London and say, yes, this is a city where I want to be. This is a city where I want to bring up my family. And I think those are the important things that we got to look at as a council.
Thank you, Jerry. Connor, you have 1 minute to respond.
So I sort of addressed this in my previous rebuttal, that we need to be retaining a lot more talent in the city from our two post-secondary institutions. making the city more attractive in terms of housing is a big step there. And I think Jerry is right in terms of making it an exciting city for young people, especially downtown. We need to make sure that there is a vibrant arts and culture scene, some stuff that keeps people here and keeps the city vibrant and dynamic, and not just a sleepy town as some people see it. But the other big thing we need to do is make sure that we have robust external connections. Sometimes it feels like London is an island that isn't as connected to, say, the GTA or to Detroit. We need to keep up the pressure on the federal government, the provincial and federal governments at the municipal level to encourage possibly getting a high-speed rail line. That would be the crown jewel for London one day, or a dream, but also just making sure there's improvements in Via Rail and that we're not being left behind when it comes to province-wide transit plans, as it seems we have been by Queen's Park the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now that we've just got this basket thing down, we're going to switch it up. Those who registered for the event had the opportunity to submit questions prior, so we're going to move to some of those audience questions now. Each of you will have 1 minute to respond to each question. So we'll just go one and one for these, and that will give us more time for your questions in the audience. Okay, so I believe, Connor, this is to you first. What's the one thing you will change about your city? This is from Sharon D.
Quite frankly, the one thing I want to change is the image of London. I feel, like I said previously, I feel London's being left behind in a lot of ways. Even with all the growth that we're having, keeping us as one of the largest cities in this country, it feels like we're getting left behind in federal and provincial plans. And I would like the image of the city to change. I'd like it to be seen as a vibrant, dynamic center where new and different stuff is happening. And I think the way to do that really just comes down to making it a livable city. Making sure that we have good public transit that gets people around and can attract people here, and make sure that there's good public housing that can bring in and keep some of our vibrant talent that comes into the city for an education.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you have 1 minute.
I think that a couple of things that I would like to really change, and it's social issues currently in our city, which becomes homelessness and mental health, because that's a burning issues for us. And honestly, it's not just downtown; it's spreading around to the suburbs. And I really think that we need to put a system in, and it's a thing that we cannot do municipally. We cannot do just municipally. And I spent a lot of times on this, and I could talk about it probably for 5 hours, but I'm going to say one thing. It's a thing that we got to bring and strongly lobby provincial and federal governments, because they got to overlook it, because if they don't overlook it, what's going to happen is exactly what's happening now. The municipality that is taking care of these issues the best, they will never see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, because other municipalities will be shipping them to your municipality. It's a worldwide fact. That's how it's happening. We need to bring and lobby federal and provincial government to it. We got to be at that, and there are two ways to do it: percentage-wise, budget-wise. And I hope, if elected, that I'll be able to push this forward, because it's a big burning issue for us, and it's getting worse.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay. The second question, what are your plans for traffic flows and school in our area, given all the current and future construction projects? That question comes to us from Alex F. And Jerry, you will go first this time. You have 1 minute.
Alex, so I think that the important thing is to look at the London plan, look at strategically where the developments are going to be. And we already know right now that there are certain things that we are behind. And when I say behind in terms of the infrastructure, are the intersections, for example, Fanshawe and Richmond, Sunningdale and Adelaide, and turning lanes and width of the streets. And if you look at the growth and what's the projected growth, and actually if you look at the London plan, it didn't even plan this kind of a growth where we are today. And we really need to look at this, and we got to look at strategically where the plan is going to be. Look at our urban growth boundary. And I really think that we got to look beyond, not just really 1-2 years, but really strategically look at where's the boundary, look strategically where the young people will be. Because again, we all promote inward and upward. Makes sense, absolutely. But guess what? A lot of young people who want to have families and kids, they don't want to live in the apartments, right? They want to have their house and backyards as well. So again, we got to be the best for living, working, and playing in London.
Thank you, Jerry. Connor, you have 1 minute.
Well, quite frankly, this is more directed around schools, right?
The question was, what are your plans for traffic flows and schools in our area, given all the current and future construction projects?
So I know Thames Valley needs to start doing a reassessment of our populations in our schools right now. Currently, especially up north here, they are way out of whack. Sir Arthur Curry's not in our ward, but it is over capacity, and so is Jack Chambers. Stony Brook here is over capacity. Stony Creek is over capacity, and we need to start thinking much more long term when it comes to our schools. And the City Council needs to work alongside our school board trustees in doing that. When it comes to traffic flows, we need to, I think, really rethink how we do roads and streets in the city. Currently, we have a lot of street roads, where they're dangerous, quite frankly. Like Fanshawe Park Road is a good example of that. It should be more closed off to turn-ins and turn-outs, and to make it a much more flowed street at the end of the day. Because having these street roads really is an inefficient way of building a city. And we've been doing it for the last 50 years, and it's high time we start correcting those issues.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, I feel like you're rushing, and I'm rushing you with the 1 minute, and we have lots of time because there's only 2 of you. So are you both okay if we move to 2 minutes for the audience questions? Sure. And then we'll give them the time to, slow down and be able to fully answer the question. We don't need to be rushing. So, okay. Let me just pull this question up. Okay. Given that the City of London has declared a climate emergency and is a bird-friendly city, how will that influence your decision on various city policies, particularly around development and transit? This comes from Emily M., and I believe, Connor, you are first for 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, when it comes to that, we need to make sure that we are protecting our green spaces, quite frankly. We have some of the most, when it comes to the urban growth boundary, I could see a few adjustments being made to it, but I couldn't see a major expansion of it, to be perfectly honest. While we're in a climate emergency, we should not be taking away some of the most prime farmland in this country. And we shouldn't be taking away our green spaces, which also cool down our urban island. Quite frankly, when you have all this concrete around, it raises the temperature by 4 to 5 degrees, and our summers are getting hotter and muggier. And in order to make sure that London remains a livable place, we need to start preserving our green spaces, getting as many cars off the road as we think is possible, and really committing to a true green future for this city.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you have 2 minutes. And I should just, sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say, if either one of you want me to repeat the question at any point, please feel free to ask, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think the environmental issues are tremendously important, no doubt. On the other hand, if you look at the growth of our city, and if you look at our boundary, I really think that we should look strategically and rather sooner than later. Because I do believe if we strategically start looking at things later, we make quick decisions and may meet on the best ones. Every time I made certain decisions, I always wanted to every person, every group being represented. I always say the worst thing in life are decisions made about you without you. And I really think that this is the best time to start looking strategically. As I mentioned a little before the London plan. The London plan is a good plan, but on the other hand, the things are moving much more faster than anticipated with everything going on. Who was expecting 3 years ago pandemic and a lot of people from GTA will be moving down to London, etc. We got to revisit that. We got to look at this with developers, with the city engineers, planners, with the environmentalists, and look at the options that we honestly have and be ready for it. It's always good to be proactive and not reactive, and I really think that's what we need to do. I myself built hotels in a couple of different countries, and what I always did is, that was the first thing I approached the municipality or the place where I was building, because again, none of these developments are really the best for environment. They are not. But I always approached the municipality or the city where I was, and I told them, this is what we are going to be doing. What can we do to offset and to help the environment. And I think this is the thing that I think that we really need to look at. Yes, our city is going to grow. We are going to grow, and I believe we are going to be, the best place in the world. People will want to come here, but we got to be ready for the growth. We got to be ready for the growth. We got to plan, and we got to make sure we make the best decisions to cover all our bases, so we do not lose our identity, what London was always about.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay. Next question. This one comes from JCS. What is the plan for Sunningdale Road? Traffic is congested and getting worse daily. Jerry, you have 2 minutes.
The plan for Sunningdale Road. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that there should be. It should be both directions should be 2 lanes. And one of the things interesting, if you go from Adelaide up north, from Adelaide west on Sunningdale, right on top of the hill, there was a proposal, for example, for signal lights. And the interesting part is talking to door knocking, canvassing. One of your neighbors told me actually that there's this plan, and he says, how does it make sense on Sunningdale to put this on top of the hill? Everyone during the winter will be sliding down. And those are the things that I think that is a big, important, key part for the councillor to talk to the residents of Ward 5 and to get all these informations, because even though, all the neighborhoods have, some neighborhoods have same issues, some have different, but I think that the ones around Sunningdale, they have some great ideas. As far as I know, 2 lanes each. Adelaide should have 2 lanes as well with a left turning, and there is right now question mark if the island on Adelaide south of Sunningdale, if there's going to be an island or not. The question is because of the Tim Hortons turn off to the left. That's all as far as I know about Sunningdale.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were finished.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, go ahead, Connor. You have 2 minutes.
So an environmental assessment in the city usually takes about 2 to 3 years to get a major road expansion done. Sunningdale Road has been under an environmental assessment since 2012. It's been 10 years. Right now, I was just canvassing up there a few weeks ago in Uplands around there and Sunrise and through there. And I thought it was crazy that we have a commercial development going in at Richmond and Sunningdale on the northeast corner there, but there is no sidewalk on Sunningdale still. How on earth people might be driving to the stores, but there's plenty of teenagers in that neighborhood and children in that neighborhood who are going to go down to that little gas station corner store and buy something, and they're going to be walking along essentially what's the median between the road and the forest or the development, and that's quite frankly dangerously unsafe, and it'll continue to get more unsafe the more there is development up there. I don't know how I feel about 2 lanes going each way just yet, just because like I said about Stroads, I feel that's just going to create what I've been talking about, more Stroads with more turnoffs. I prefer a single lane road going each way with the sidewalk grade separated away, like it is further down on Sunningdale Road going east. And to make it more efficient, it should be a quicker road, because Sunningdale should be, quite frankly, since it is the northern edge of our city, it should be a bypass around our city with a quick speed limit and safety measures around it, not going to turn into another 4-lane road that will have 3 more big box plazas and 5 more new giant developments.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, next question is, where do you stand on the London Plan, Masonville Transit Village, and Rapid Transit? This comes from Randy W. So Connor, you can go first.
When it comes to rapid transit, some is better than none, but I would like perfect in an ideal world. Personally, I supported LRT. I thought LRT was the way to go with that. It is low emissions. We don't have to worry about a lot of the issues that buses have. That is still going to be transferred over with the BRT. But BRT is still better than no BRT at the end of the day. When it comes to the London Plan, I think it's a plan with good bones. And it should be like a constitution, a living document. But unfortunately, we wrote the London Plan back halfway through the decade, and we did not expect to have this growth that we're 40 to 50,000 people over our what we projected at this point with the London plan. So I think the London plan needs to be relooked because our city is in a much different situation than we thought we'd be 5-6 years ago. And when it comes to the Masonville Transit Village, I quite like the idea, personally. I think that the infill going around Masonville is a good idea. I'm not always the biggest fan of high rises. I like medium density development for the most part. But if there was any place to build high rises, I'd want it built on tarmac and not on green space or on farmland.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry, you have 2 minutes.
I'm also in favor of, or I would have been in more favor of LRT than BRT. I do think that in terms of the Masonville and the Depot Village, I think that is a good idea. And I think there was a third part. What was the third part?
So it was Masonville Transit. So it was the London Plan, Masonville Transit Village, and
London
Rapid
Plan.
Transit.
And London Plan, I already mentioned it. I do think I do think it's a very good document. But like if you make a budget, if you make even an annual budget, when you make changes, you make certain forecasts. And I think we need to revisit this as well because, as I mentioned before, no one anticipated this before, and we gotta catch up with that. And I do think that those are if I look at the big picture, 2 big priorities of the new council to start working immediately on the budget and to revisit the London plan so we don't miss any opportunities and any decisions that are not made kind of 5 to midnight and we got to make a decision to move and sometimes the decisions 5 to midnight are not the best. So we got to be proactive and we do have to make the updates, the forecasts, what I call to the London plan.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, the next question. How will you remain connected with your constituents? This question comes from Randy W. And Jerry, you can go first.
I love town hall meetings, and doesn't matter if it was public, if it was corporate, or these kind of town hall meetings. Getting together with people, getting together not just for the entire Ward 5, but also the neighborhoods, because it's really interesting, and I'm quite sure Connor will probably have the same experience. The neighborhoods we visit, yes, certain things are overlapping, but it's interesting that sometimes you are honestly 5 kilometers away from each other, which is a short distance, but the issues sometimes are different. And it could be snowplowing, it could be crime, it could be traffic lights, it could be noise, it could be school problems. But those are the things that I think that for me, the most important part for the council is to be there for you and to get back to you to respond within timely manner and whatever it is. It might not be potentially everything that you're going to hear is what you want to hear, but the council will get back to you and will get back to you the reason why she made that decision. And I think that's for me has been always the most important. And as I said, going forward, the town hall meetings for Ward 5 as a whole and specific neighborhoods, that's what I would like to do and have truly good conversations back and forth.
Thank you, Jerry. Connor, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jerry. Town hall meetings are the way to go. And when you start looking at city councilors' expense reports, you can kind of see who are the ones who are really reaching out to their constituents. City councilors, on top of everything, have about 15 to 18 grand, I believe, to spend on their office and whatnot, and their role. And the one I've seen a lot of city councilors spend it on Apple cables or paying for their home internet during the pandemic. And I think the best city councilors are the ones who are paying to have a newsletter sent out to all their constituents, keeping them informed of what's going on in their area. Having town hall meetings is also incredibly vital because our job as a city councilor is to be the ones creating a community. We need to be the ones who are organizing this stuff. We need to be the ones who are the ones. You shouldn't be reaching out to us. We should be reaching out to you. And another way to also do this isn't just town hall meetings, but also having more community events. Like I liked what they did in Uplands. Where we've had different food truck nights, and there's been we need to have more street festivals and stuff like that. Things that really create cohesion and community and build that sense that people really like to be here, and it's not just another collection of suburbs. In fact, it is a community that people love to be in and are connected to their neighbors.
Okay. Next question. it's harder to keep track of who's been speaking than it looks. Okay, so this is our last submitted audience question. Will you support maintaining tax increases below the cost of living increases? So I believe that's to you, Connor.
Right. So at the moment, the cost of living is hurting everyone. And tax increases came about to maintain city services. I've seen a lot of candidates who are saying that they want to lower taxes and also hire new police officers or do this or whatever they would like to do. And at the end of the day, tax dollars are what maintains civilization, our city, our community. And while the recent tax raises have been quite high the last 4 years, and I wouldn't want to raise them any more than they are, I don't know if I think about lowering them. If I wanted to look for new revenue in the city, I have to go back to development charges. It shouldn't cost only $30,000 to build a 5,000 square foot home on a 0.4 acre lot. It should cost quite a bit more than that. And that's a revenue stream that the city really isn't tapping, and it could really use those revenues, especially when we're building these suburbs.
Okay, thank you, Connor. Jerry.
The development charges, I would not increase them to make it a higher revenue for the city. If we increase the development costs, the housing is going to be even more of a scarcity. The developers, builders, they will move even more outside London, and it will be less attractive for them to develop in the city. If I do get elected, I'll tell you right now, getting involved in the budget is going to be one of my top priorities. I do think that there are a couple of things that increasing taxes, as anyone, especially the business owners, we are against any increases of taxes. We do want, which I'm, for example, very much in support of hiring 52 officers, because we do need that. We have the criminality on increase. We got to address that as well, and we got to find that money for this. What I'm hoping for, and there are two ways, couple of things to do it. The first one is in terms of the existing budget, or the one that we are going to be working on, to honestly look straight through all the areas where can we save the money, because there's potentially in every budget there are potentially certain areas where you can save money. That's point one. Point two, we really need to spend time and leverage, challenge, and put pressure on the provincial and federal governments, because everything you get from the top, that means that there are some savings to you locally. And as a municipality, we don't have money to do all this. Even if we increase by, I don't know how much the taxes, we can't afford it. It's impossible. So we got to put the pressure on provincial and federal government, lobby them with the projects that make sense. I would like us to be front runners, London, in some projects that we are going to be the example for the rest of Ontario, for the rest of Canada. And I do want to lobby provincial and municipal government to give us this money so we can do these things and say, we did it, we accomplished it, let's spread these projects province-wide, nationwide.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, so that concludes that portion of our audience questions, and now it's your turn to ask some questions if you didn't previously submit them. So I'm going to ask you, if you have a question, to hold up your hand. Once I acknowledge you, I'm going to invite you to come to the microphone to ask your question. Please keep it to 30 seconds, so ask a direct question and to the candidates. Please speak into the microphone, and then once you're finished your question, please go back to your seat and the candidates will answer once you're back at your seat, okay? All right, so I hope you came with your questions. Yes, please come on up.
Thanks, Shauna. Okay, my question is for Jerry. Your platform states that you will support funding more frontline officers, but that you also support expanding London's COAST program. Can you explain why you'd support more frontline officers instead of merely shifting officers away from COAST-related concerns, such as people experiencing a mental health crisis or a person using drugs?
Sorry, what was your name?
Ryan.
Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, can you repeat the second part?
Of course,
the
yeah.
last part.
Yeah, sorry. So it says, can you...
go closer to the mic, please?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you explain why you'd support more frontline officers instead of merely shifting officers away from coast-related concerns, such as people experiencing a mental health crisis or people who are using drugs?
No, I think we need actually. I think we actually need both, and we need the 52 officers. We need them because if we look at our neighborhoods, without going into too much details, our burglaries and safety is a huge concern for the citizens in Ward 5. It really is, and it's growing. I do feel that when it comes to mental health, and I think that the best way to do it is the pilot project where we did have a social officer attending the cases together with the police officer, because police officers, they do not have as proper training to deal with mental health as the professionals. So I do think that we need that on both ends. And there's actually, when it comes to honestly mental health, I still have time. It's a huge, big issue, as I already mentioned. And there is one thing, is big thing to make a better answer for this. There are people with mental health issues. They have different backgrounds, different needs. And what we are actually currently doing now, we are putting them all kind of in the same bag, in the same spot. And we need to categorize them. And the way we categorize them is, once we categorize them based on their needs, we gotta come up with the initiatives that directly address this category. That's the only way how we get to this person, because every person who has a mental health issue has different approach, needs a different approach for us to be successful. And I think that's the important way and the most successful way how to do it. And people will tell you the psych hospital closing was a big bad mistake. And if you get to know the people, if you really work with the people on the street or by the river, I spend with them, I would say on average 4 or 5 hours a week. They too tell me, and they say, Jerry, psych hospitals, they were good for some of us, but not for most of us. What we needed, the society, to hold our hand for 5 minutes, get us trained, get us back on track and work. What the society...
Thank you, Jerry. Sorry, you're out of time. Yeah, I know, it went past.
It's yellow.
Yeah, it was 2 minutes, sorry. Yeah. Connor, would you like to respond?
Yeah. Well, it'd always be nice to have more police officers in our city. I do think there are better ways to support our emergency services here in London. For the price of the 54 police officers that we could hire almost double the amount of EMTs. At the moment, we have officers who are mostly responding to overdose calls right now, and firefighters as well. And a lot of that is because of the breakdown of our healthcare system at the provincial level with the current government in Queen's Park. Because as we have a policy and it's a good policy, where the EMT has to stay with the patient in the hospital until they're looked after. Well, we have 20-hour wait times right now at University Hospital and Victoria Hospital. And quite frankly, making sure that we have more EMTs on the street and making sure our fire department is fully funded as well. Currently, we are down to our spare ladder trucks in the city. We usually keep one and a spare truck in case of an emergency, but we're down to the spares, and there is no heavy rescue truck in London. A city our size needs 2 of those. And if we need a heavy rescue truck for whatever purpose, we have to call Waterloo. That's unacceptable in our city right now. And quite frankly, I think while the police officers need our support, there are emergency services that who have much greater needs in terms of support right now.
Okay. Thank you, Connor. Okay, who else has a question? Sir, come on up.
I live just near Sunningdale, and I can see cornfields right off Sunningdale, just north of me, and I just saw a cornfield with a sold sign on it, and I know what that means. Right? The province has been pushing cities to expand its boundaries into more urban sprawl. So I guess I'd ask the question is, what could you do as a councillor to push back against the province to say, stop the urban sprawl, build within the boundaries that you have?
Thank you. Okay, Connor, you are first this time.
So I think resisting the growth of our urban growth boundary is essential. While I do think there needs to be adjustments to it, they say there is a lot of space in the city for single-family homes, but at the moment, the main last undeveloped plot in the city of a large stretch of land is Dingman Creek, and that's floodplain. We can't actually build there. So, and if you look at the urban growth boundary, it's not very uniform. If I'm being quite honest, I would like a more uniform boundary so we fill out the city in the right way. But I would very much like to resist the pressure coming down from Queen's Park to expand our urban growth boundary. There are better ways that we can get cheaper, good family housing in this city. One way I would like to do that is ending exclusionary zoning. I would like it so we don't have to only build one type of development on this land. If you open up the market a little bit and inside the city, you'll start seeing developers wanting to build different types of development here in London rather than trying to go for the cheap buck and push the city as far out as possible. Sorry, I'd like to ask just one more bit. There is a problem when we build these, when we build more and more suburbs. While I like suburbs, and I think we all like suburbs, we all live up here, or most of us live up here. And I think that we need to make sure that, but the problem with the suburbs is that it's a bit of a drain on governments, because at the end of the day, it often costs more money to support building a suburb and to deliver services that far out than it is to try to build infill and densify a city. Densification equals cheaper taxes for all of us.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry.
Currently, entire Ward 5 is, excuse me, in the urban growth boundary. I don't think it's just a pressure from province. I really think it's a pressure locally as well, because there are pressures from people to have affordable housing, to have enough housing, to have, and when I say affordable housing, I mean even the deeply affordable, the subsidized housings, etc. And again, I think we all promote what we call inward and upward. We do. But then you get to the not in my backyard, right? And we all try to push it, which we make sense to do it kind of in the downtown area, and everyone feels that that's the right way. And I feel the same way as well. But again, we have the young families who will hopefully they will come here. You know, London, we keep saying that we are growing very fast, and it's true. We are one of based on population, and I believe that. But on the other hand, how many are the young people who will have kids, who will have in future attending our schools? How many are there? That's an interesting number, because again, a lot of people that are coming here are from GTA, and when I look around, it's mostly our age group, and guess what? We are not gonna have kids anymore, right? And those are the people that we gotta attract as well. And again, not all of them wanna live in the high rises. They do wanna have the backyards. They want kids to be able to play on the playground, on their backyards. So again, it's not that I'm pushing right now, let's do this, let's move it over there. But what I will be pushing for is to really revisit the London plan, revisit the boundary, and start making plans right now, and including all the sectors to be present at the table. So it's not decisions again without you, including the environmentalists, and look at the areas where we can potentially move and make it the best decision for everyone.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, who else has a question from the audience? Sure, please come on up.
This question is not for our riding specifically, but this issue of homelessness affects all of London. As our city councillor, what would be your view on the situation of the Arcade Mission and the Baptist Church downtown?
Thank you for your question. Jerry, this one goes to you first.
So the Arcade Mission, I think there was one mistake that should have never been done. And when the city found out Arcade was moving there, city should have right away sit together with Arcade and give them options. I think, and honestly, I'm not exaggerating, I'm volunteering with various organizations, and honestly, with organizations, and on me, by myself, 4 to 5 hours a week easy I spend with the homeless people. I feed them by the rivers, I feed them through organization, and I feed them, some of them, they come to me downtown, and I feed them as well. So I think it's important. Let's put it this way, it's essential. But on the other hand, if we look at that, we want to be in a pleasant, safe, welcoming environment. If you look at the true picture, so look at this, if someone is going to come to our city, for the convention, they enter the city just before Horton Street. On the left-hand side, we have Salvation Army. John Actis is doing an absolutely amazing job there, but if it's a nice weather, we have a lot of people without the roof over their head right there at the corner. Then we move on, and a lot of these people, they attend convention center, they stay at Delta Hilton, they attend events at the RBC Center. Guess where they go? They go through Dundas Street. And get on the Dundas Street, they see it again. Now, there are a lot of visitors that I have in the restaurant, and then they come afterwards, they go to the north part, the Richmond Row, and guess what? It has become there as well. I think that we need to provide these services, no doubt. And as I said, I know a lot of these people, I really do. I lost a couple of people during winter that I knew, and again, all because they had not enough food and not enough warm clothing. Very sad, tremendously. We can't let that happen. But on the other hand, as a city, we gotta come up with better solutions that work for everyone. For the people homeless,
Thank you, Jerry.
for organizers, for businesses, for everyone.
Connor.
So I was actually at Arcade last night. I went and helped serve dinner there last night, and I got to talk to the organizers there and the church, and quite frankly, it's an excellent organization. It's what we need downtown at the moment. I talked to some of the people who were there last night. I asked, if you didn't have this, where would you go for food? And a lot of them didn't have an answer. Right now, our city seems to want to harass the homeless situation away, and that's just not the way to do it. We have to accept the inevitable fact that as a regional center, I hear a lot of people saying that homeless people are being bussed in to London. This is not true. What happens at the end of the day is anyone from Sarnia to Kitchener, from Listowel up north and all the way down to Windsor and out to Long Point, if you're from any of those towns around there and you can't, and you're living rough or homeless, London is kind of the place to be. And also on top of that, our hospitals here have a catchment area as far as Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay. So if you have to come for any sort of medical care and you're sent by the province here, a lot of times people don't have the means to get back to their own town, so they end up living rough here. And harassing that kind of problem away is just not going to work. We need to make sure that there is proper transitional housing in the city. Arcade is doing that. Currently, the reason why they're at the Baptist Church is that they need a $2 million renovation on their Dundas Street location. It is currently ripped out. They're trying to put in 10 SRO units to provide transitional housing to those down in Old East Village and downtown and throughout the city. And I think that's something that we need as a city, we need to start supporting rather than hindering. A good example of the city hindrance was last year when we decided to limit beds to 50 in our missions and shelters. And that's going to cause a lot of problems this year.
Thank you, Connor. Hey, other questions from all of you? Okay, come on up, sir.
I also live in the Sunningdale and Richmond area, and one thing that I can't understand is when I first started there, it used to be a cornfield growing and all that stuff, which is good. But now, the way things are going, you guys are saying, well, we want to go to Sunningdale and not build any further. But it's just a matter of time before we take over Arva, the way things are going. And another thing that I like to know with transportation is, you know, we can go anywhere you want, But we need access to the 401, especially the people living in the north side. We need access to our airport. And if you want to go to airport, you got to take one bus, then you got to take a transfer, and then you end up at Fanshawe, and Fanshawe, then you go to the airport, which is all kind of crazy. And my last comment is take a lesson from what's been happening around us. We're locked in a grid system. So all we do is stop a light, 100 yards later, more stoplights. But what they've done wonderful, I think, is something called the roundabouts. If you take a look at the roundabouts at where Sunningdale and Wonderland, that's a prime example of traffic moving all the time. Thank you.
Okay. Are you able to answer the question, Connor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I keep forgetting the order myself. It's not just you. Yeah, when it comes, you're absolutely right. I worked in the Waterloo District School Board for quite a while, and I like the roundabouts in Waterloo region. I thought they're a really good way of traffic management, especially on major routes. And you're absolutely right. We need better access to the 401 and to the airport from up here. Finally, when it comes to expansion, though, yeah, it might be a matter of time before we annex Arva, or we annex Kamoka or Kilworth, or London gets thrown into a regional municipality. Who knows what happens one day? But you know what? When we annexed Westminster in 1992, there's still tons and tons and tons of farmland that we decided to protect. And I expect if we were to annex Arva, we still wouldn't be going past Sunningdale Road. That land would still be protected as farmland no matter what, because we did it once before with when we annexed Lambeth and all of Westminster Township.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry?
I would just add to that again, when I mentioned already a couple of times today that we really need to look at and plan now for the future, and so we can make the best decisions, because this, and I know first you said when you said roundabout, I thought you meant the circular road around London, and those are the things that potentially we could be missing out in the future. And I really do think that this is the perfect time now to revisit it and look at all the options. Transportation, no doubt. The roundabouts you mentioned, the transportation, because we are growing much faster than we anticipated. And we really need to make some decisions now and again, put this money into the budget and this money, because I don't think all of it will be able to afford municipal money, to go after the provincial and federal money, the grants, and to make sure that we can get kind of back on track, and our Londoners have an opportunity to take public transportation to wherever they need to, point one, and when driving the car, so there is the smooth traffic, and everything is working the way it used to be when we had a smaller population. But we gotta adjust, we gotta be proactive, we gotta start making the decisions now. One thing is, I have still 2 minutes. One thing is that I just want to go to the previous one. I just want to let you know that in terms of arcade, there are other opportunities throughout downtown that would be much better and would make no difference for the homeless people to get the food that they need on a daily basis.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, did you have a question? Come on up.
Hello. So with climate change increasing pressures in the coming years, London is projected to have warmer summers and increased downfall, which poses the risk of flooding. What climate change adaptation measures would you support within the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, you're first this time.
So I think there are certain things that I'll start first with things that are actually not in our control, and that would be, I'll go push it a little bit higher again, provincial and federal. And I do think that there certainly needs to be certain initiatives, like in other parts of the world or first world countries, to do initiatives, incentives. So actually people and organizations, if they invest into the improvements, to cut the emissions, to improve the equipment, that they need financial help, that the grants are there for them. In terms of the city, what I think, again, going back to it, improve the transportation, improve the active transportation in terms of the bikes, make them much easier, much safer, much accessible. In terms of for London, let's say there's already a certain number of buses, electrical buses have been ordered. The truck fleet for London to look at electrical options. I do think that in terms of the river, we gotta take care of better of our river. River and water bodies for most of the places in the world are an asset. I'm not sure if Thames River for us is an asset. Springbank Dam, I think that that's one of the things that we should, I know there are kind of totally opposite reports suggesting that it would be tremendously expensive to try to make it operational again, and then there are some that wouldn't be. But I certainly would want to look at, because I do think that potentially, if that would be feasible for us, both for environment, both for having recreational activities, I think that would be tremendously positive. So I really think that in terms of other things, in terms of the buildings that are operating by the city or by the city, same thing, to look at energy efficient equipment that we could have. And I'm just trying to think, and I think that's about it. Go ahead.
Perfect. You're out of time. Thanks. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, Connor.
So actually the main subjects I teach in school are history and geography. And I've noticed, I started looking at maps of what climate zone we're going to be in the year 2060. And in 2060, London is going to have a similar climate to inland South Carolina. It is going to get very hot, very muggy in this city in the future. And while to stop that, that's going to have to come at a national and international level. We need to start thinking of policies now to mitigate those climate realities we're going to have to face. Green space is one of the biggest ways to protect it. It seems like such a simple and small thing, but at the end of the day, green space really helps lower the temperature of a city overall. Cities are just that much more hotter than the countryside surrounding them. On top of that, we need to make sure in all of our developments that we have proper tree canopy coverage in the city. It is embarrassing that the Forest City has the lowest tree canopy coverage of any major city in Ontario and has the lowest targets of any major city in Ontario. They often say the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time to plant one is right now, and we need to start doing that. If we were to spend as much money as Toronto does per person on tree planting, we'd be spending more than double what we are right now. We spend $5 million a year as a city. If we were to spend per person as Toronto does, it would be $11 million a year. And currently the process for planting those or getting one on your property is not very streamlined in London compared to other cities in this province. So I think maintaining green spaces, making sure that we have proper transit and electrified vehicles. And when I say electrified vehicles, I don't necessarily mean personal EVs, because I think that's not necessarily the way to go with it either. We need better public transit that is electrified, specifically LRT. That is easily the most climate efficient and energy efficient way to do transit around the city.
Thank you, Connor. Additional questions, okay. Thank you.
Hello, I'm interested in your potential strategy for increasing entrepreneurship in the city. And the reason I'm asking that is that it follows quite nicely on some of the points you both raised earlier about why can't we keep our university graduates or our college graduates. The university is spending so much money on entrepreneurship programs, you know, and really trying to foster that and train students, but we're having trouble finding entrepreneurs to work with the students, either at the, you know, sort of postgraduate level or even in co-op internship programs. I mean, basically, I sort of see the same couple of companies, you know, taking interns all the time. And, you know, to be honest, I think, you know, students, believe it or not, graduating from university aren't always interested in going into academia. In fact, most of them don't want to. And not that I totally blame them being there myself. But having said that, I think we do need to provide other pathways, but we need to do something because we're not a hub for entrepreneurs to want to come here. And I'm not smart enough to know why that is, and we'd love to know your plans.
Thanks for the question. Connor, you're up first.
You know, quite frankly, I don't think we have a good enough relationship with our higher education institutes in this city. And again, I'd like to compare it to when I've worked in Waterloo. They have an excellent relationship with their post-secondary institutions. The University of Waterloo is the main reason why Waterloo is that and London isn't. Because at the end of the day, that's why all the companies come there, because they have all the engineers and all the computer science kids, and they encourage them to stay there, and it's a positive feedback loop at the end of the day. It's a tough challenge trying to create that positive feedback loop, but in order to do it, we need to make sure that we have something that gives us an edge as a city. Last provincial election, I was going around a lot trying to advocate for municipal broadband, because at the moment, internet coverage, as we know in Canada, is not great. And I worked for a company that did a lot of online sales here in London, and they moved to St. Thomas. And one of the reasons they moved to St. Thomas was because at the end of the road where they were, kind of off Bradley there, their internet connection was so bad they weren't able to do their proper sales. So they went to the telecom companies and they said, yeah, we'll put in the line for you. It'll cost you $350,000. That's the kind of stuff that we need to start putting down in the ground ourselves. It would be small at first, and maybe limited to a downtown core or some industrial areas, but we need to start thinking about things like that, or other programs or infrastructure that would give London an edge and want companies to choose to come here and keep entrepreneurs in this city.
Thank you, Connor. Jerry?
I think we need to improve the relationship, not really kind of as much with the universities and colleges, but directly with the students. We got to get to them. And again, we do have certain city organizations that deal with entrepreneurship. And we cannot just wait for them to come to us. We got to go to them, and we got to tell them what opportunities, what we can offer them to stay in London, to talk about the plans to help them out with, potentially grants as well. And those are the things that we need to do. We got to go face to face, and again, find out you want to be an entrepreneur. Why London is not your option? Why Toronto? Why there? Why there? And that's the thing that we gotta look. We gotta look at the competition and why are they going there? And I think that's an important thing. Again, not just to sit behind and waiting for them to come. We gotta be aggressive. The world is very aggressive, and the most aggressive ones. And again, I don't mean it in bad way, aggressive, but we gotta go to the market. We gotta be saying all the great things that we have to offer, because we do. Do we have issues? Absolutely we do. But we are still a fantastic, great place. Canada is a beautiful country. Ontario is a fantastic province, and London is great. We are just going right now. We are growing too fast, and we are certainly having some challenges right now because we weren't as big of a city as we are now. But going back to it, let's go to those young people. Let's say we are here for you. What do you want from us? We want you to be here. We want you to start your family here. We want you to be here forever and ever.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, I saw you have a question. Does anyone else have a question who hasn't asked one? Okay, so this will be our last question of the evening. So come on up, and then we'll do closing statements.
All right, so I'd like each of you to name one London City Councillor, past or present, whose work has particularly impressed you and inspired you, and to explain why.
Thank you for the question, Jerry. You're up first.
I'll go with Sean Lewis. And Sean Lewis, a lot of people who are much more experienced in municipal politics than me, they say municipal politics are the retail politics. And I think that Sean Lewis is great with his constituents in his ward. He's hands-on. And he's very proactive. And I don't think, again, that it's not that he always says whatever his voters, that he will do everything his voters want. But I do believe that he has the same personality as I do, that if it's not what the voter wants, he will explain it to them why not or why he made a decision. And I think that's a great value of the councillor, and that's exactly the councillor I would want to be.
Thank you, Jerry. Connor.
This is going to be a little surprising coming from a self-proclaimed progressive, but Phil Squire. At the end of the day, Phil Squire understood what was his first job as a city councillor, and that was representing his constituents' interests. He was excellent at getting back to people. He was excellent at making sure he knew all of his any constituent who contacted him, their name. He made sure that he was active in Ward 6, and I think, and I thought he would. Even as a progressive, I thought he was a great city councillor, and keeping that first priority of keeping my constituents first is something I'd like to take from him.
Thank you, Connor. So that's the end of the audience question portion of the evening. So we're going to move on to closing statements. So you'll each have 1 minute for that. And we began with opening statements from Connor. So this time we will begin with you, Jerry.
So once again, thank you all for coming. And I think that even though we have some challenges ahead of us as a city, as a ward, I think that there are exciting times because we are experiencing growth, and I think growth is positive. We do have a lot of work to do, though. We really do. We got to make the right policies. We got to start thinking strategically. And there were certain things that I started to work on about, I would say, 16 months ago. And the reason why I decided to enter politics, even though honestly I never would consider myself a politician. I would always consider myself a public servant. It's a certain things that I started, and I really want to push them through because I believe they will be good for our city, for our ward. I'm a person that I always say I don't think I was born of with the DNA of a politician, but I certainly was born with the DNA of a person who is accountable, delivers results, and loves to serve people. I've been serving through my positions, various positions in hospitality all my life, and I want to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Connor.
All right, I want to thank again all of you for coming out tonight and sitting through us talking. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we are building a city in our own image. And that is the job of City Council, and I think that's a job that City Council has semi-abdicated the last 4 to 8 years. Especially we've lost a lot of talent and experience in City Hall, lots of early retirements due to COVID, and no one's been filling that gap, quite honestly. And at the end of the day, I want to be a city councilor that hits the ground running. We have a 3-year budget that we're going to have to approve right when we get in office. We're going to have a negotiation with CUPE that we have to get done right away. And I'm a councillor who wants to hit the ground running, and I know I would be the best councillor for you and this ward. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. And please, please, please remember to get out there on October 24th, and advanced polling opens up very soon as well.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, well, I would like to thank both of you for running for office. Thank you for participating today in the All Candidates meeting and for taking a step to serve your community. I would also like to thank each of you for coming out tonight, for your questions, for the initiative to inform yourselves about your local candidates. And finally, don't forget to vote. The election date is Monday, October 24th. But once again, thank you for coming. Have a good night and stay safe.